Third speaker, Toastmaster Kelly Vedi. Classical rhetoric contains a rich vocabulary for describing persuasive techniques such as anaphora, chiasmus, and polysyndeton, blah, blah, blah. I don't have any clue what these are and can barely pronounce them. Me too. And I bet you can't either, which is evidence to support the drastic changes to the Toastmasters educational program that Kelly Vedi is announcing in her speech this morning. Please welcome Toastmaster Kelly Vedi.
Toastmasters, it's come to leadership's attention that our educational standards are abysmal. We have been wasting time not learning the basics of public speaking. Pathos, logos, ethos. Do you even know what these are? Not nearly enough of us do. So, to change this terrible situation, I'm announcing a new lecture series on classical rhetoric that will now be a part of club meetings. Now, I know what you're thinking. Sign me up. But when are we going to have these lectures? Our club meetings are already so full. Well, here's the change. From this day forward, there will be no speeches at club meetings. And no table topics either. I know you don't like those anyways. So we're going to have time for lectures, note-taking, reading textbooks. This is the way moving forward. And even more importantly, Toastmasters International has announced that they're going to give a bachelor's in public speaking, followed by a master's and a PhD in advanced oration. After that, you'll be qualified to come up here and deliver your first icebreaker. And I have the whole full weight of club leadership behind me. Who thinks this would actually be a good way to improve our public speaking? Of course not. We all know it would be a terrible way to get better at public speaking, that to get up here and practice is the way to actually improve our public speaking skills. But that's not the model that we use in a lot of other skills. Instead, we use this classroom-based model that I just described. But there is a different way of getting better, and that's called apprenticeship. An apprenticeship is sort of what we do in here. We learn by doing, we practice under skilled mentors, woo-woo, Gary, and we get better over time by actually practicing and learning the skills. Apprenticeship actually used to be a lot more common in America. George Washington, our first president, was an apprentice. But we haven't invested in apprenticeships in American education. Instead, we've invested in the classroom-based model. But it doesn't have to be this way. And in fact, other countries have chosen different educational paths. Switzerland, for instance, 2/3 of Swiss high schoolers are in apprenticeships. And not just in the skilled trades, like where apprenticeships are common in America, but in nearly every industry. Switzerland has apprenticeships in banking and finance, IT, healthcare, almost any industry you can think of. In fact, most Swiss CEOs started out as apprentices. These apprenticeships are paid jobs where high school students spend part of their time in the classroom, yes, but they also spend several days of the week in a workplace, learning by doing on the job. And these apprenticeships last several years until they graduate from their apprenticeship with the skills they need and the academic knowledge. Does that sound like something you would have wanted to do in high school? Yeah, get out of the classroom, actually go get a job? Not me, no. Give me the academic learning all day long. I actually loved high school just the way it was. Loved sitting in a classroom, loved lectures, loved textbooks. I probably would have been pretty interested in that classical rhetoric lecture series. It wasn't until I became a teacher myself that I realized this academic learning wasn't all it was cracked up to be. I taught high school geometry for 2 years, and my students were not the type of student that I was. I thought they just weren't motivated. I had one student, Anthony. He was one of my favorite kids, but not one of my favorite geometry students. He always had a smile for me. he did not always have his math homework. So I talked to him to try to find out what he was interested in, what motivated him. And he told me that he wanted to be a film director. I have to admit, I didn't really take him that seriously. It seemed kind of like a pipe dream. But a couple of days later, he said, "Miss Peaton, I've been working on a film script. Will you read it for me and give me some feedback?" I was like, "Oh, okay, Anthony." Now, I don't know what I was expecting, but it definitely wasn't the 86-page, perfectly formatted film script that I opened in my inbox a few days later. Anthony was motivated. He was serious about learning the skills that he needed for the future that he wanted. But he wasn't getting that in the classroom. He had to go himself outside of the classroom to find opportunities to learn skills. And he did. He succeeded. I follow him on Instagram. He's a director. But he did that despite his high school experience, not because of it. But it doesn't have to be this way. And in fact, there's a growing movement here in the United States to bring back high school apprenticeships. I spent years learning about and supporting the people who are doing this work. I learned about amazing programs in South Carolina, Alabama, New York, California. There are high schoolers right now who are walking the halls of JP Morgan Chase, who are learning IT skills to eventually go work at their high school IT departments. The thing is, in my work in high school apprenticeships, I didn't actually hear of any here in Florida. And I think that's a shame, because we live in the backyard of perhaps one of America's most famous apprentices, the Sorcerer's Apprentice, Mickey Mouse. And if there's anything Disney has taught us, it's the power of an idea to change the world. So for all of you who grimaced at the thought of turning this club into a lecture hall, think about the high schoolers who are groaning in their classrooms right now. And I invite you to consider, is there anything that you could do to bring more apprenticeships into the world? Thank you.